What's going on, people? Looking at the title of this video, I guarantee you there's already some, I'll be nice. There's some mindless drone that is already typing a response to a video they're not going to watch because the title has the new boogeyman word in it. I like to think that I'm smart enough, not the smartest man in the world, not an economist, but smart enough to look past the bullshit and go look at facts and make a decision on what something means or doesn't mean. Unfortunately, on the cult side, all they have to hear is whatever their handlers tell them is the next thing to hate and regurgitate. And then, of course, they have their paid influencers that they give the talking points to, and they just go and regurgitate the same thing. And you know it's paid for just because they all say the same exact thing. But let's talk about some things, in my opinion, that should not be controlled by private industry. And the reason why. Forever we've been convinced that the only way things can work the best way is that the wealthy and the corporations and the healthcare industry and the pharmaceuticals have to be for profit. And therein lies the problem. When you have to build in profit to every system, it causes costs to go up. Greed takes over, costs go up even more. And we've seen it over the decades. One time a CEO of any company, on average, would make 20% of what the worker did. Now it's, I think, if I can go look the number up again, it's 300 something percent easily. And that number probably doesn't include all the stocks and all the other perks and bonuses that they get. And therein lies the problem. It's the greed part. And we have oversight committees that are supposed to overwatch these departments that are the government departments that oversee and are supposed to protect the people. But greed takes over there as well. The people that are actually supposed to protect us from bad people, bad actors in any industry, are bought and paid for by those same industries. In my opinion, the oil produced in this country is ours. And the problem is we don't tax those companies the way we should. And then on top of it, we take tax dollars and subsidize them as they make billions of dollars. The oil in this country should be controlled by the people. The profits from that industry should go to the people. Programs, things to help the average American have a good life. Have a good life without stressing over everything every day. What we built is a bunch of really happy, wealthy people and a bunch of miserable, average, everyday citizens who are just struggling. Wouldn't it be nice just to have a life to where your next thought isn't, how am I going to pay for that next tank of gas to go to work? How many hours of overtime do I got to work this week just to make ends meet? And we don't need to be here. They slowly have turned us into slaves. We're just paid slaves. They've made it to where you literally don't have an option other than going to work, making them wealthier, and just surviving. One example I have, what is it? 95% of the oil they take out of the ground, I think it's roughly 95%, we sell overseas because our refineries here aren't set up to refine it properly or effectively. And if you want to know more about the oil industry, Mr. Global is going to go watch. I watch his channel all the time. Very smart man. But we let them take the oil out of our land, our country, and sell it overseas, and then and enrich themselves while giving back very little to this country. They just continue to take. That should be a resource that we control. And there are going to be people that are going to say, well, the problem is government. Well, yeah, we need to build ethics into any piece of legislation. There needs to be ethics built into every piece of legislation regarding the companies doing the work, the departments that are in charge of it, are overseeing it, and those that oversee them, mainly Congress. And that's the other problem. We don't have enough safeguards built in to keep people from doing the things they do. One instance to prove that is Mike Rogers, who's running for Senate here in the state of Michigan, is worth between $10 and $15 million. He was a congressman. Supposedly he's working class. I think his background was FBI at one time. But now he's a millionaire. How do you think he got there? How do you think he got there? He used the system that's rigged against the people to his advantage. And that needs to stop. There needs to be ethics built into everything we do, even the Supreme Court. There is not enough safeguards and protections. And a Supreme Court justice, the highest court in the land, should not be able to do anything against the people. And it should not be as hard as it is to remove a rogue justice or a corrupt justice. There's where the problem is. As we've grown, as the money has gotten, the amounts have gotten bigger, the greed has gotten bigger, we haven't kept up with making sure the ones that are in charge, that we've given the power to legislate, we got to make sure they are under control. Especially since we don't elect the Supreme Court. They're appointed. Now, one point that socialism, democratic socialism, is something that we need to look at. And I know there's going to be some moron that's going to go, the boogeyman, socialism. Nobody's talking about the old Soviet Union communist that we've seen. That was a corrupt government running their people into the ground. North Korea is a corrupt communist government that uses its people for its own benefit. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about systems that we already have in place in this country. Our military is a perfect example of socialism. But like the ACA, there's another falsehood that drives me crazy. And I said this back when they were fighting to get it passed. It was never going to be a sustainable system. And the reason was, it wasn't a bad idea to help people get insurance. I have no problem. That's not the issue with it I have. The problem was profit had to be built into the system because they were using private companies, insurance companies, and pharmaceutical companies to make it happen. So again, the goal was to get enough people on insurance and paying for insurance to drive the cost of insurance down. And that never happened. Getting a subsidy to pay for your insurance isn't the same thing as keeping those costs down. That never happened because the more money that got put into the system, the more ways they found to jack prices. And I can attest to that. In 1992, I had a hernia repair done. That surgery was just a tick over 18 grand back then. I just had to have another one done a week ago. That was $52,000. So the keeping the cost down by putting more people on the insurance only accomplished one real thing. It increased the profits for these insurance companies. and gave them more control over our lives. Because again, our legislators are bought and paid for, and there was no way the insurance companies who give them tons of money was going to let them cut them out of the pie. Health insurance should be a right in this country. We need to look at doing a system like Canada does, and we need to make sure that there's safeguards and legislation that keeps the corruption at bay, keeps people from using that system to enrich themselves. And there needs to be penalties, severe penalties for anyone caught ripping the system off, like Rick Scott did in Florida, and now he's a legislature because the people in Florida are mindless dweebs that only vote Republican no matter what, and they love to put crooks in charge because, a crook's always going to try to save you. It's not about them. I mean, obviously. You can see how well things are going in the world right now. But there are instances in this country where socialism, a version of it, can work to benefit the people. There are certain things in this country that should not be controlled by private industry. We should not build profit into everything for these companies just to get something done. We can do it a better way. We can do it a lot better way than it's being done now, to where it benefits the people. That's what this country was built on. That's why the first, it says "we the people" right on the Constitution, because that's what it was supposed to be about. It didn't say "we the corporation" or "we the wealthy." Although, if you look at history, when they first wrote all those documents, the only people they were considering as the ones were wealthy landowners. They didn't even include the everyday person in America. It was controlled by the wealthy, the landowners. And unfortunately, when we talk about rights in this country, one thing we need to realize is the only ones that's ever had rights from the day one of this country's founding has been the wealthy white man. Women didn't have rights. Slaves didn't have no rights. The average white man didn't have any rights other than to exist. Even the everyday average poor white male in this country back then did not have what you think they did. They had the right to work their asses off and die, while the wealthy landowners controlled everything at the beginning. Not even regular white men had those rights that they did, the protections they did, the power they did. That had to be granted through changes in the system. And to think today that there are everyday average white guys that think that they should control everything, you never did. Your leader, your handlers did. Your oligarchs did. But, I digress. And I'm sure there's going to be people that push back. Listen, I never claimed to be an expert on any of this. This is my opinion. But there are things in this country that at all costs should be for the people, run by the people, and protected for the people. And there's a way to do that. We just got to get the corruption out. So when you see a bought and paid for Republican and a bought and paid for Democrat, they're the same people. They might have different talking points. But in the end, they're there to protect those that put them there, and that's the wealthy. And now that we see a change in our politics, now that we see people coming forward who shun that money, who say, I will not accept that. This is what I'm trying to do. Those are the people we need to be supporting. Because what we have so far has not worked. If it doesn't work, then you can always go back to voting for the corporate bought politician. But to not even want to give it a try because someone on a social media platform or a news channel is telling you that the boogeyman is this or the boogeyman is that, so you're not even wanting to try, solves nothing. Not a thing. We got to do better. This country needs to do better for the people. And the only way we do that is we stand together, get this corruption out of our government that's in control right now, and then keep moving forward to make this country what it was originally supposed to be, for the people. My opinion, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you're some dipshit writing some stupid comment because you're just going to regurgitate some right-wing talking point that you was told to say, don't bother, don't care. For everyone else that has half a brain, give me your thoughts on it. What do you think should be done for the people? That's my thought. That's my opinion. Appreciate you taking time. Have a good day.